So I'm Ben, and I'm an entrepreneur. Sounds like I'm admitting something, right? Exactly. So I can just say that my career has been sort of a zigzag. There's been no, path. Steve Jobs only gave one commencement address ever, and he said you can always connect the dots in your career, but only backwards, never forwards, and that's been my career. It makes sense now, but looking, if I had started where, looked forward, it wouldn't make no sense. So, I've done everything from, learn how to change tires in a suit like this when I was working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car as a management trainee, and I've, designed spy planes for the Army and the Navy, big project management when you're making billion-dollar plane, projects, and classified government clearances and things, and I've worked on nonprofit boards, helping to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and working with the military on that. Done a lot of work around diversity and inclusion, was a management consultant, done Lean Six Sigma, so I've Kaizen things, and then got into HR, and I have a degree in marketing, and I was a head of internal communications, the things at HR at a big global company as a senior vice president, and then about 5 years ago, I left thinking I was gonna take some time off to get a job somewhere. Never thought I'd be an entrepreneur, and bam, wound up an entrepreneur somehow. I stood on a banana peel and I slipped, and then I was an entrepreneur. So I now have two companies. So I coach people. I'm a business and executive coach. Then Pilot, my venture, I put my life savings into this company. I didn't ever raise any money. I just sold a house I had and took on a bunch of debt. And I started a software company to democratize coaching. And a big part of our brand is to feel empowered. And we work with all sorts of companies. We work with Housing Works, a nonprofit here in the city, or City Years, a national education nonprofit. We work with Cadillac and MetLife, Pinterest, Pandora Radio, all these really interesting companies. People have really loved feeling empowered to take their career into their own hands. And one of the biggest shifts that's happening in the corporate world when it relates to people development is people development is becoming individual-owned, company-supported. Well, so what I realized as I thought about this is I started being entrepreneurial well before I had a business. But what I think we can all think about is no matter what you do for a living and no matter what industry you're in, I think we can all be entrepreneurial. So I think that that's where, if you're here tonight, my message to you is not quit your job. It's be entrepreneurial in your job. Brands can matter a lot, but I think that you want to think about your brand a little bit less like, I'm on the side of a bus and I have a website and da-da-da, like me.com, right? Follow me on Insta, it's, and a little bit more in the realm of your reputation. What do people know you for? When you come to an event like this, do you sit in the front of the room, like Tatiana here? Right, if she was on a plane, she'd want to sit up front. She'd be in first class, right? You're at a concert, right? But this weird thing, when we go to work events or school things, we sit in the back like we got a bad attitude. What's that about, right? So little things can make a difference. How you treat someone on email. Do you pick up, is there a courtesy? Is there a phone? Do you open the door for someone? You say hello to someone in the elevator? All those things are part of your reputation. The kind of skills, do you speak up in a meeting, right? How do you solve something or handle something? So just to think about brand and reputation are kind of related but distinct things, right? And it's also your skills. What are you known for in that regard? In playing a long game, if you think you're going to work for more than a couple years, which you probably will work for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, right? How do you optimize about what's going to set you up for future options? How are you going to learn the most? That's what we talk with Pilot is diversifying your professional brand. I mean, if you had 401k in retirement, you don't put all in one stock, right? You diversify in a variety of things or an index fund, so invest in a lot of different things. You're more than your job. Part of it is learning what you like, right? And you learn what you like by doing it. Just let go of the fact that you don't think I'm going to do this forever. Just do it right now and do it really well. And I think sometimes this gets people in trouble with annual reviews, is they won't do work that they don't like very well. And then they say, oh, I'd perform better if I liked the work. Those people don't get promoted. What happens is you need to do exceedingly well at things you don't like. Give up whether you like the work or not, because no one cares. because the work has to get done. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to do that for 20 years. And maybe for 3 months. It's fine. I've done so many things I don't like. It's fine. But the thing is, you prove your skill and your aptitude. You say, hey, I did this really well. I'd like a bigger challenge. I want to be strategic. I want to, I can do this. I've proven that I can do this. Yep. Can I now manage this? Can I make this better? Can I innovate? The intersectionality of things. Executive coaching on average costs $500 an hour in America and more than that in New York, which means about 98% of people will never get executive coaching, right? So I want to democratize it, and we've taken 96% of the cost out of it to push it down the pyramid. That's my opportunity I saw. Everyone should have a coach. I want to democratize it. I want to level the playing field. With your current job, what sort of special projects or other things that you could get involved on that may have you stay there a couple more hours a day, but that would give you other exposure or experience? If you've never done anything in marketing, could you help with some sort of rollout? Right? If you've never done anything, maybe it's on the exploration or the M&A side or other things that would just, again, have you learn more. Because if you can get more, because sometimes people think of it in the wrong way. They think, oh, well, they're only paying me for this much. Think of it more like, what am I getting out of the company in terms of learning, exposure, and experience? So great question about promoting entrepreneurship in big companies that can be kind of anti-entrepreneurial, and whether you get big process and structure and regulation and systems. So, oftentimes, the larger an organization, the less impact an individual can have, right? Organizations are designed to not be impacted by individuals for their own sort of survival and safety. So, there's a lot of different things people can do, and people do hackathons and innovation challenges, and they do, different, talent rotations, or employee resource groups often can help, innovate on products and marketing, different recruiting strategies. But one thing I always tell people is sometimes the best way to help your employees be innovative in what they call entrepreneurial, being an entrepreneur inside of a company. First, if there's a special project or something that can, that they're kind of given that can break some of the rules and do something interesting, right? But also support them in doing work outside of the company where they can grow their skills. In particular, be on a nonprofit board, right? I've been on a nonprofit board. It was a transformative experience. In corporate, I had to ask money for budget, but in nonprofit, I had to ask money for just give me money to my nonprofit, and all you get is satisfaction and a tax write-off. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. That was a lot harder to do, and it was a skill that I really learned. So it made me much more entrepreneurial when I could ask my friends for $5,000 to sponsor a table for my nonprofit. It made me a lot better advocating for things at work after I learned that skill outside of work, right? So the skills and the experiences don't have to happen in the walls of your company. So there's increasingly a lot of companies that are using, community involvement, skills-based volunteering, nonprofit boards as ways to teach people to think like owners and to be entrepreneurial outside and bring those skills back in. One of the things pilot members tell us is we talk a lot about self-advocacy. Have you asked for what you've needed?